On the western edge of Baltimore City, the quaint community of Dickeyville sits on the banks of the Gwynns Falls, near the start of the Gwynns Falls Trail.
Well, Dickeyville is a historic mill village that's situated between Washington and Baltimore. We started as a mill village with the Franklin Mill.
Dickeyville is here because the stream is here. This was a mill town, and the mills were built here to harness the power of the stream.
If the mill never came to this area, we would have never built up a community.
The stream has always been a gathering spot for me and my family. It's always been a community spot.
This is really the centerpiece of the village. We have a lot of celebrations down here. We have bonfires. We have people come down here to fish.
And now it serves, as it did, I'm sure, a long time ago, it serves as a real gathering place for a lot of our events. And this sort of green space around it is just a nice place for our community to come together and enjoy what we have now, which is a little bit different than it used to be, but it's still really a wonderful place to gather.
Oh, I'm building the fire pit for the annual Dickeyville bonfire. Sort of a harvest home, welcome the autumn kind of thing.
We try to get down here 2 or 3 times a year to clean up the stream. This is a watershed, and anything that goes onto the street that's in the watershed ends up in the stream.
I think any body of water provides kind of a lifeline to people. When you hear the water coming over the dam in the morning, it's one thing that kind of wakes me up. And it's also a drawing point or place for people in the community.
It's because of the old mills, we have mill races that were turned into the Gwynns Falls Trail. So we have beautiful walking and bike trails here in Dickeyville.
The green space in this community was a huge draw for us to come and live in this community, and since we've been here, we've really come to enjoy it more and more. To be able to walk a few hundred yards and be in a park, a beautiful park with a great trail. And it also just really lends to the historic nature of this neighborhood, that so much of the green space has been kept throughout the years. Just makes it a very welcoming and almost a country feel in the middle of the city.
We have a lot of open spaces and natural trails for you to walk through the woods. We have the Gwynns Falls Bike Trail, so that you can actually park your car, walk out of your house, just jump on a bike or just walk a trail without having to get into a car and drive anywhere. It's a wonderful asset that we have here that a lot of people enjoy.
Well, my history in this community dates back to when I was a child.
We are just an open community which trying to work and get our families the best we can.
There's a little stamp of each individual person who's lived here.
To put your feet where so many before you have walked.
That kind of thing sends chills up your spine.
Watch My Town, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. on CharmTV.
My wife had, about 30 years ago, had said, I want to show you this little place, a place where I used to go in the 1970s to get macrame. So I had come here, and to me it looked like a little movie set, like a perfect little place.
Well, that's this whole neighborhood. It's out of a storybook, really.
Dickeyville is on 2 historic registries. It's a historic district under the Baltimore City Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. And then I believe it was in 1972, through the federal government Department of Interior, we became an historic district under the Maryland Historical Trust.
The height of the community started in the 1840s, 1850s when the Weatherds came into the village and turned the paper mill over into a woolen mill. And they really had a vision to create a community.
The Weatherd brothers were 3 very bright entrepreneurs, politicians, and were very, very concerned about the mills and the people
They sold the first houses to privately owned people, they built the first church, they built the Oddfellows Hall, and they really built Dickeyville to what we really feel is a community that we have today.
This particular house was built in 1877. It was a time after the Civil War when the mill that was making woolen cloth was starting to kind of redevelop. Knowing that this was a poor but very thriving mill village where people who lived in my house, in particular the other side of the room, was a shoemaker. And he had a family here, he had a large family. We find evidence in our backyard about daily life in that village. And so you have a sense, at least I feel, of I am preserving, every time I paint a room or I repair something, I'm preserving a little piece of history.
These two homes are a great example of what the original mill houses would have looked like in the 1870s. They were built out of wood instead of stone because of the problems that they had with dampness. And they also would have been gray and not white because the original houses would have been by the mill and the maintenance on a white house is very extensive and you wouldn't have wanted that for your mill workers. Ashland Chapel was built by the Weatherds in 1849. They donated the stone and they donated the land. The driveway here at the Ashland Chapel, as you see it, was originally a trolley path as well. The trolley would run from Mount Holly Inn through Dickeyville to Lorraine Cemetery and then out to the Gwynn Oak Park. We're very proud of the trolley. We fought to try to keep it. We just didn't have the ridership in the days. The significance of the structure we're sitting in front of now is it was built in 1853 by the Weatherds as an Oddfellows Hall. The Oddfellows were an organization, a society beneficiary organization that would help people with burials, with unemployment, and any time of distress that they would have. They didn't have Social Security in the day, we didn't have burial benefits for people, so it really was incumbent upon these organizations to build a strong community and to give that benefit to the members. One of the unique things in Dickeyville is we have Belgian stone gutters as well. What would happen is the ships would bring over a stone in the day, they would have them in their ballast for reasons of making buoyancy, and then when they got here, they would use them for the roads. And we made sure that when the city came in to redo our streets, that we maintain these Belgian stones, and we're going to continue to maintain them.
When I drove into Dickeyville for the first time, I fell in love. There were marvelous varieties of houses. There was a very tall stone house. There was a lovely frame church, a lot of greenery, woods in the background, and it was like, I'm in love. I am absolutely in love.
The sense of community, neighborliness, caring about each other is really what has made this place the most extraordinary place I have ever lived, and I've lived all over the country.
I think other communities can learn from Dickeyville this sense of looking out for your neighbor, involvement of people in the community, not only fun activities, but cleaning up. We clean up our stream several times a year, we clean up the street, and I think looking out for your neighbors. People don't thrive if they're living in isolation.
Many times we live in neighborhoods that aren't communities. We don't know the people near us. We don't know what they care about or what difficult times they may be going through or what celebrations they may be enjoying at any given time. And that's not a community. And Dickeyville is very much a community.
When I look to the future, I see small communities like Dickeyville thriving and in larger cities. I think it's what people are drawn to. People want to be involved and active, and a community like this allows them to do that.
I love living in Dickeyville because it's a community that has a little bit of everything. It has history, it has green space and nature, it has families, it has artists and musicians and lawyers and just a gamut of different people who make the community what it is.
For more information on Baltimore neighborhoods and full episodes of My Town, go to www.charmtv.tv.